Meow 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 meow
Meow,
meow 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 meow
meow,
meow
meow,
meow 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 meow.
meow, meow. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us on this week of Crafted. It's going to be fish versus fish. We've got Rico and we've got Carrie, the science gal.
Woo
Woo,
woo.
Carrie.
I've been drinking
Thank you, Carrie.
caffeine. Thank you for
Uh-oh.
having me to prep
Uh-oh.
because I haven't been up this late in a long time.
I'm with you, sister.
Oh, man.
It's rough
Well,
for me as well.
we'll try to pump it all out and hopefully it'll get done in an hour.
It'll be
We're
fun.
going to wait for James to get on before we start.
I see him in
But what
chat.
we're awesome. We are going with will like we like to do these where it's fish versus fish. Like maybe we do best tetra and we rate them between 1 and 10. I need the crowd to also guess. And I'll do a thing where I randomly select like a number and then we'll count down to whoever like the first or two, sixth or whatever, 10th person. And then we'll take their score. So we're going to have my score, Rico score, Carrie, spelled the cool way, and James, and then the crowd,
The crowd.
the people.
Oh, hey.
And then what we'll
before-
do is
Go ahead. Finish up. But before we jump into it, I want to say something.
oh, that's fine. Why don't and so we'll do that, but we don't want to start until James gets here. But we're going to look at 10 of the most popular filters. And if I miss one at the end, guys, let me know what one I missed. And we'll talk about it later, maybe in another stream. But Rico, do you want to say hi to people while I just set it up just
I
real
do,
quick?
but I want to say before we even get started that we have a very important birthday tonight. Pooplin is 132 today. He doesn't look a day
Wow.
over 130, but he is. He's 132. Happy birthday to Peplin, Brian. Happy birthday. I hope you had a good birthday. Also, Big Tank Hank, he had a birthday today.
Hank.
Yeah, happy birthday to Hank. And then Saturday is my very good friend Vinay's birthday, Color Guppy. So,
Oh, wow.
and there's some other cool ones
Color
coming up
Guppy.
too. But happy birthday to Peplin and to Big Tank Hank today. All right, and
That's
I'll go
awesome.
through and say hi. I'm not going to do the participants. I'm just going to say hi.
Okay.
Peplin was the first one in too, so that's very fitting. Hi, Pep. Lady Rorschach. We got Gina's Reef and Dr. Awesome. There's Kenny and Delightful Delilah, Linda Worth, Whips World, Podrick, good to see you, Vanoski. There's Gina. Hi, Gina. Pegasus Arena. Hello. Xanadude, one of our Dungeons and Dragons guys. There's Shelby K. Always a pleasure. Tampa Tom.
Hey, look at that.
Ivy.
Don't.
Ooh, don't do that. Yuck.
I was trying to get prepared and I showed off what the first filter's going to be.
We know what it is now. Then we also saw close-ups, and that
everybody gets to think about it.
Jason and Mike, I hope things are good with you. Chris Aquazone, hello. Cora Works, Scuba Steve, Paul Sotero, good to see you again, Paul. Travis Myers, and I'm getting down towards the bottom. There's hello from Dennis Christensen. Hi, Dapper Dennis. Benjamin Peters, hello. Nathan, what's going on? Holly, Freaky Fish Lady, it's always good to see you. Sandy, Cat Hair Crafts, hello. And I'm pretty far down. I'm sure I missed a few people. So anybody else I missed, hello, and thanks for joining us.
That is awesome. Well, we have Carrie here tonight, and I'm sure everybody knows who Carrie is, but she's awesome. And maybe there's a person that's never gets on Sundays, or they don't know what podcasts are, or maybe they aren't looking in the right place of a podcast. So let's first hear, when is your YouTube channel?
We do a live stream. Me and my better half, Jesse, do a live stream most of the time when the kiddos aren't sick or have a school project due last minute that we didn't know about. Normally at 4 Central Time, 5 Eastern, and I think it's 3 Pacific Time, right?
I think you're right.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then we do a podcast that's once a week. We normally put it on Apple, Spotify. I keep the most current episode for the members. This is a new thing, but I've slowly been releasing the older episodes on YouTube now for the videos. So if you want the most recent episode, you can join our membership for 99 cents, but you can find it. It's called Aquarium Dilemmas. I go through mainly all of the things that I've done wrong through the many years of fish keeping that hopefully you don't make the same mistakes I did. So just trying to share information through my uh-ohs. Like, hey, this wasn't the best idea, from just all kinds of things, just all kinds of topics, just things that I've personally experienced, things that I've messed up, to some of the things that I've learned in chats and listening to you guys, just like, hey, I didn't think about that. That's an interesting topic. I'm going to talk about that too. So we usually record that once a week. So, and then the shorts, and then occasionally I'll do a regular video here and there. So, but yeah, Science Gal Aquatics here on YouTube, or Aquarium Dilemmas on the podcast. So,
and Carrie and Ed and James are all involved with what?
Aquashella.
Yeah, they are all involved with Aquashella too. So
yeah, I'm kind of nose deep in it today. I was like, man, I got something to work on.
Oh, is Hank here? I see Lady Diane too. Hi, Lady Diane. Did Hank come in? Big Tank Hank is here. Happy birthday, Hank. We were talking about you earlier.
Buddy.
Okay. I'm sure I missed people in the chat. I'm sure I missed a lot of them, but hello everybody.
Hello.
If one of the mods could put a link for Big Tank Hank, I don't know where he is in subs, but if he could get 5 subs from this channel, that'd be an awesome birthday gift, I think. But maybe everybody's already a sub to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people probably are, but hey, there might be people out there. I know Nathan said he wasn't familiar with Carrie, so a lot of times we have these people that are big to us in the community, and then people that we hang around don't know who they are, and they're bigger people than us, and we just assume that everybody knows who they are. So,
well, when I fall asleep at like 6:30, I miss a lot of the cool chats in the evening. I have every intention. I have it set. I have it ready to go, and then I sit down on the couch, and then I'm like, when did that happen?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't like to say Carrie's better half, because Carrie's awesome.
Yeah, I'm the better half.
Jesse, he is amazing. And those
don't
two
tell
on
him
their
that too much.
are so well. You guys are so good on that podcast, because
well, thank you.
Jesse wasn't originally a fish person.
No,
but because he has the love for this girl right here, he has become a huge. He's like gained all this knowledge of fish, or and he really does a great job. He's a hardworking guy. He's awesome. I really like him a lot.
Just don't tell him that too much. Just don't.
Yeah.
He's right up there. Like, he's good. I can have some friend time. It's okay. But I appreciate that. But I think I was the vessel that drug him along. It was really, honestly, Primetime Aquatics Fish Room that got him into it. I was the one that was like, will you go with me? And he's like, no. I was like, will you go with me? He goes, fine. I was like, are you excited? No. And then he went in there, and I was like, you could just see it change in his eyes. And I was like, man, my life's going to be so much better.
Now, you by yourself were at the Keystone Clash last year. Are you guys making plans for both of you to be there, or either one of you, or either one of you?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, because I booked the hotel room. But I have not booked the flight yet, because I need a ride from the airport to the venue. But I say because I am planning.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless I know Lefty was a really good sweet talker last year, so maybe he can help me, he got me there, so maybe we can all be like, hey, we're gonna miss you. We
Yeah.
really need you to go. Carrie really needs someone to drive her from the airport to the hotel. We'll butter him up. I mean, it's getting closer, and I'm excited. But I still have some time, to be like, hey.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind going by myself, but it's fun when he goes with me.
Yeah. You want your other part. I mean, it was awesome hanging out with you last year, but I'd like to meet him too. I'd like to meet everybody in the community. So more the merrier.
Plus, he doesn't tell me no as often when he's there as when when I call and be like, hey, when you're not there in person, it's hard to be like, hey, that's cool fish.
Out of all the events, I bet you there's more people there that would buy him a beer than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So just something that you might want to throw in there. But you know what? Let's get on the show because we've got 50 minutes to rip through 10 of the top filters in the nation or in the world. No, I don't know. There might be some awesome things in Asia we don't know about.
In the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I can. We accidentally popped the first one up, but bam, oops, now I don't have the little body heads next to it. There we go. The sponge filter. Okay, so guys out there that's watching, and Carrie, Rico, and James know how this works. You can rate things more than once the same number. So 5, you think this is an average filter. 10, you think this is the best filter there is. Hands down, you won't go with anything else. 1, you wouldn't be caught dead with this in your tank. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to get all 5 of the scores, the 4 of ours, and then we're going to get 1 from the crowd, and we're going to find out where the sponge filter goes. And I'm just going to start off with my opinion of the sponge filter. I think, like, when I was growing up, fish stores all had sponge filters and nobody else did. And I was always like, why do they have these type of filters and nobody, it's because they're affordable and fish stores didn't want to sell them. They wanted to sell us other things that would buy rechargeable plugins and all this other stuff, things that just cost more. I love how affordable the sponge filter is. It's so easy. The air stone, you can hot rod them a little bit, make them a little bit more powerful, but I absolutely love the price point and what they do. They're kind of ugly, and that's probably their biggest drawback. Okay, Carrie, do you have any opinions? Oh, and then I'll just say I'm going to give the sponge filter a solid 8.
Hey, real quick before Carrie jumps in, you have a message from Skipper. I see it at the top of the screen there.
Oh, what did Skipper say?
It's Messenger. I can see it. Skipper, you've got the tabs open. I'm sorry. Just ignore it. Go. I couldn't help myself. There's a Facebook tab open and it's got a Skipper message. Okay. Anyway,
well,
okay. I would say I would rate it a 7 because it's the one I have the least experience with. Usually, because I'm the opposite. I never heard of a sponge filter until I started hanging out with and talking to YouTube, FishTube. I've never wow, the first time I saw one in person was pretty recently, like in the grand scheme of things. So I would say a 7 just because it's the one I have the least experience with out of the ones I've tried. And I never leave them in a tank long enough. I'm always switching them around for some reason. Like I'll put it in this tank for like a month and then I'll put it in this tank to start this one. So I don't hate it, but it's not like my absolute favorite, but I can see the need for them, if that makes sense. So like a 7.
Okay. How about you, Rico? And if you don't have an opinion, you just want to give a score, that's fine too.
No, I like
any
sponge filters quite a bit, but with all of these things, I think that there's not one that fits every application, right? It depends on what you're looking for in a tank. I think that, I personally wouldn't want to use a sponge filter, even though they've got huge sponge filters, wouldn't want to use one in a huge tank, right? think sponge filters are good for like 55 and below. Although I have 2 of them in my 75 right now. I love the sponge filters. I do like the co-op ones. I like that they're a little more coarse, that they you don't have to clean them as often because I'm super lazy. I think they pull enough out of it. If you really want to polish it, it's easy enough to wrap some filter floss around it. Just make it so it's not super thick, right? You wrap it once or twice around, and that's good. So I'm going to rate it. I'm going to rate sponge filters an 8. I really, they're probably my favorite filter.
I can't see really what Lady Roshak said. Did she say something about so surprising many people dislike this co-op? Now, this isn't the co-op is just the photo that I used of a sponge filter, but this is all sponge filters.
Well,
so like
other people I saw in the chat were saying that one they didn't care for as much, that they would change the filter, the sponge out, or different things like that.
It's actually my personal favorite.
Or people don't like
I use
the
a lot of
green or whatever it is. There was I did
green's
see
my favorite color.
A lot of people had things about it they don't like. Jason right here says, I hate this filter. Sponge is way too coarse. When you try to move it, it's dirt city. Also, the fact that you need additional air stone to make it functional. I rated a 3.
So he gives sponge filters a 3. Okay.
But
well, how about
I think he's saying that filter though, that specific sponge filter, because there are some differences, right? He brings up a point there. There's differences in the sponge filters.
Just for an example, when we get to the canister, I don't know if I picked a Fluval, if I picked a Marine Land, or if I picked an Awazi. So I don't know if I picked the cream of the crop or the low end. It's all just the style of filtration. So sorry if the photo gives it a kill, but well.
I think that did confuse people. I personally, I do like a lot of the co-op products. I think they do a great job, and I do like their filters. I have them in just about every tank. Sorry, James, I think I stepped on you a little bit.
Oh wait, what was your number? An 8?
Yes.
Okay, buddy.
All right, we ready for the 42-minute dissertation on sponge filters? Here we go. No, I'll try and be brief.
We're rating one thing today.
Yeah, one thing. That's it. I will try and make this very concise. I'm going to give it a 10. I know it's not for everybody. I'm going to give it a 10, and I'm going to explain why, because that's what I do when we do these. Sponge filters are the only reason that I am able to maintain large fish rooms, even when we got up to almost 100 tanks and, plans to have more than 100 tanks. The fact that I don't have to plug in an electronic device for every single tank to filter it. I can plug in one device, or if I need to add a second one, 2 devices being linear air piston pumps, and filter dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of tanks off of that one electrical outlet. Makes all the difference in the world to me. When I've had power outages, I actually have a car battery that's sitting here in the floor, and I have an inverter. And when the power goes out, I plug one thing in. All of my tanks have aeration and they have filtration. I don't really have to worry about anything. I will agree that with the co-op sponge filters, the porosity of them does lead to some detritus getting sloshed around if you move them or things like that. With those particular ones, the cleaning method's a little different than regular sponge filters. A lot of times people grab the hose, they yank it out, they put it in a dip and pour or whatever container, and they take it to the sink and clean it. With those, it's recommended you take some sort of a Ziploc or some kind of bag, go down in the tank, cover it up, and then pull it out of the tank, and that gets rid of most of the mess.
Yeah.
One thing I see with sponge filters in general, people complain, well, I can't change things up. Like, my canister, I can add this or I can do that. I can do chemical filtration. I can do other types of filtration. Rico, you touched on it slightly with trying to do a little bit finer filtering. You can use the polyfill sheet instead of the batting. Wrap it around. You need to use some carbon to get some meds out. They make carbon filter pads, wrap it around. You know, they make phosphate filter pads. They make all these different pads. You can wrap it around, throw a rubber band on it, and still manage to accomplish whatever type of filtration you're going for. I used them on everything from 2.5 gallon tanks to 220 gallon tanks with no problem whatsoever. So that's my go-to, and I love it. I have other filters in use, and other filters do serve certain specific environments better. But even in those situations, you'll still see that I run sponge filters in the tanks along with other filters. So there's my rant.
Awesome. Now, let's get the crowd's opinion. Now, this is where I always mess up. Is there a point where we're supposed to write go?
Let's do that. I'll do it for
Go.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
There, go.
And this is where you guys can say, because I heard Rico say somebody said a 3, and I see Mike says a 15. It's 1 to 10, so it can be anything. And then we should probably. Why don't you put go like in between whenever the second person is there? Like once 2 people have talked, will you write go in the chat so that way it'll be ready for when we're done?
You know what? If
I think that this one's
though, there's a lot of conversation and points being made. I think maybe we wait till we're almost done with talking about it, then we'll put in go like the last person. That's when I'll put in go with the last person, because there's a lot of talk.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think we'll get lost, and there'll be a lot of other stuff in between. You don't want to give it too long, though, right? Is that long enough?
right. Oh, it was number 1. Who was the first person?
The very first person I see after go was Mr. Benjamin Peters. He gave it a 7.
A 7. Okay. So that gives the sponge filter a solid 40. And the next one is one that maybe a lot of people haven't used. It's the Biomedia. And this one's ran by air-powered Biomedia. And I kind of talked about this a little bit on James's channel. But you have these little plastic things that bump around. They knock off the dead bacteria and keep the live stuff growing. And they're really neat. They're fun. They're a great DIY project. There's not too many that are actually on the market that you can buy pre-made. But they're a lot of fun to make. They're a super project, I think. Really fun for a school project, for a science thing. I wish I was knew of the fish knowledge I know now when I was doing 6th grade science papers. But I'm going to start it off. I think they're fun. I don't know how super useful they are. So I am going to go, and I think they're also an eyesore. They're a huge eyesore. So I'm going to give it a 5. I'm just going to say it might be fun to try. I have a couple, but I don't like them. So they're not really, or I don't necessarily not like them, but yeah. Carrie, do you have any opinions on these things?
Nope. Nope. I haven't tried them. I've seen them in people's videos. I agree with you. They look fun. I could see the purpose in trying them, but I'm kind of right in the middle with a 5 if my opinion matters, because I've never tried them. But I can see the value, but I personally haven't tried it. No.
Well, a lot of parts to looking at a fish filter is also maybe the reason why we haven't tried it is because they're ugly. So it's also part human appeal. Should be also part of this rating. So
it's not the ugliness. It's I'm the lazy. And that means I would have to do that. And my filter, I can see the purpose, and I can see why someone would want to try it. I can see why it works. But I just haven't tried it because I'm just lazy.
I got you. How about you, Rico?
So I've used, the stuff inside of it, ceramic rings and these types of things in a bag, in a hang-on bag. But I've never done this. I've never just made that. And I don't know how well does that actually filter stuff out of the water. It seems like I guess I don't know enough about it to know how well it does.
Joey, the king of DIY. I know a lot of aquarium, like big aquariums and stuff. They actually use giant filtration, gigantic like filters that are filled with moving media. So it's something that they use in massive massive tank filtration. I don't know how well it works in a small thing, but I know it's one of the main big end filtrations. If that makes sense.
Would this count as kind of in the pond beforehand? I had a big Tupperware container that I drilled holes in, and I just dumped a bunch of just random bio media things in there loose and I put an air stone in there and I put it in the bottom of the pond. Well, yeah, but I didn't even have that fancy. Yeah, it was just all the loose stuff that I had in the fish room. And I put it in the pond and it worked great. Actually, it's just I changed it because the koi got too big and I needed the swimming space because it was kind of large. But I mean, that's the closest to that. I mean, if that counts. I thought of that. You jagged my memory.
That might be under another type of filtration.
Okay,
this one's mainly the bubble move.
Yeah, I talk a lot. Sorry.
It's all good.
I feel
Did
like
Rico give a number?
No, not yet. I feel like
it doesn't.
It doesn't. I like the filters that are doing double duty. You know what I mean? Most of them are going to have the bacteria in them, right? The beneficial bacteria, but also are able to pull stuff out of the water. And I feel like, and I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong because I've never used it, but I feel like this doesn't do a good job of pulling stuff out of the water, right? The particulates and things like that. The mechanical filtration. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to
very simple, like a sponge.
I'm going to go with a 5. I feel like the sponge does better though, because it does pull that stuff in and it does suck it in. Where I don't know about this one. I'm going to do like Carrie and just give it a 5 because I don't feel like I have enough information to form an opinion on it.
Well, okay, let's go to James.
Get my notes out.
All right. So I'm going to give it a 2. One of those is 1 for my rating and 1 is for the coolness factor of looking at it. The issues I find with the fluidized media filters is, one, generally speaking, I know you got some cheap stuff off of Wish, but generally speaking, in order to get a sufficient quantity of the media to build a reactor large enough to do the job you need to do, it's extremely expensive. The stuff's not cheap.
Yes.
2, I find that it's disproportionate in size to the amount of cleaning that it does in terms of the bioload, because that's all this is doing. It's beneficial bacteria. It's working bioload. It's not doing mechanical filtration, water polishing, anything like that. If you actually look into the science behind it and the amount of surface area that you need with your media, like, okay, how much media do I need to buy? How much space do I need for it? I find it to be extremely disproportional on the high end of, wow, I need to give a lot of space to have enough media to handle the bioload of the tank that I'm trying to go with. They're really cool in large setups, when you could take a 55-gallon drum and build one, and that's awesome. But again, you're missing out on a lot of other types of filtrations. It's going to be ridiculously expensive to try and get that much K1 to do that filtration. And I just find that there are so many other better ways to do what this is doing. Plus, like Rico touched on, having the added benefit of secondary or tertiary filtration methods already incorporated in what you're doing. So cool looking, but not for me.
I forgot about the cost factor, and that is so right. If you look for this stuff just on Amazon or something, you're going to spend a pretty penny for a small amount. So I think I'm going to lower mine to a 4, and I did buy mine cheap on Wish. It probably took 6 months to get to me, but I didn't care. I mean, I didn't open it for like 5 years later. So
yeah,
that was a great point. And I bought it just for a future project someday. So great. That was a great point. Well, has anybody given opinion or given their scores?
No, because I forgot to put go.
Oh,
this is like an hour and a half past my bedtime. So, you have to cut me a little break here. I'm a little slow. We're getting them now. They're coming in. I got it going. So go ahead and
And
roll
I'll
your
give the
number.
people a hint. It's the fourth person.
So I see 1, 2, 3, 4 would be Jeff Kane. And again, sometimes it's different. That's how it works. What I see is Jeff Kane with a 5.
I second that.
All right. So let's see. We've got 9, 10, 21, half of what the sponge filter did. Wow. Oh, and I need
And
to.
it probably would have had lower if I felt like, I should have gone last because James made some great points too that I maybe probably would have. But I already said it, so it is what it is.
Gosh, I'm getting all the cheap stuff in right away, but oh well, it's how it goes. The next one is the Matten filter. The Matten filter. And why don't we start off with James explaining what the Matten filter is?
It's not
Well, I'll just say, hey there, Crystal, because I was typing that in the chat. All right, so this is along the same lines or premise of your sponge filters. One of the biggest reasons I don't do Matten filters is just because I don't have the time nor the luxury of setting all of them up. But essentially, you've got a big old sponge at one end, the air, which you can see can't point to it on here, but the PVC in the center, you've got oxygen, or you can do other methods, I suppose, but typically it's oxygen induced, sucking water through that big sponge and then pushing it back out to the other side. They're great filters. If it were more affordable for me to do Matten filters, I would definitely do a lot more Matten filters. Rating wise, and that way we can shut up and move on and other people can talk. I guess I'll give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 just because it's not as simple as just buying a sponge and dropping it in.
Okay. Well, Carrie, how do you feel about these guys? Have you ever used one?
Nope.
Our buddy Rob loves them. He's, this is what he uses in all of his shrimp tanks.
Yep. I haven't met anybody that disliked them. I've just never had an opportunity besides just ordering some, like you can order anything, but I like to go in and find goodies, and I've just never seen one around me that I could buy to come home and play with, for the fish room.
Sure.
But I've heard they've been great, like for shrimp tanks and things like that. But I just, like I said, I don't have any experience personally with them. So
what would you score it?
A 5, right in the middle.
Okay.
Sorry, not much help.
No, it's awesome. And Rico, do you have any opinion on these guys?
It's another one I've never used. Like Carrie said, I've never heard anybody dislike them. They seem like they take up a lot of space for what you're getting. I always hear people call them Matten filters, and I think Matten filter, right? It's a Matten filter. It's a Matten is like the game, play some football, Matten. I don't know. I
spelled it with a D for the photos, and I didn't get any, and so then I corrected it with the T's, and I found it. So I actually thought it was like the football, I guess.
I'm going to give them a 6, and it's really just from everybody else that's talked about them. Every place else I've seen them. Again, it's one of those things that I've never heard anybody go, "Oh no, those are horrible. They don't work." You know what I mean? I've never heard anybody say that. But I just don't have any experience with them, and that's going to be my case with most of the rest of the filters. I've only used a couple more different styles on the rest of the way out, so I'll be right there in the middle most of the way.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I have used it once, and it took up a ton of my tank. And when I went to clean it, it stirred up such a mess with the substrate, I hated it. So I'm a person that you've heard that didn't like it. But on that said, it is a huge filter. I mean, it's a lot bigger than a sponge. You put a water pump that pulls the water through it. So you're pulling probably more than what air can do. So in that retrospect, I think it's better than a sponge. I saw one of my favorite videos. I don't remember who it was. It's like 5 years ago. They had one of these, and they had a ram in there. And I don't know if it was a Bolivian ram, what type of ram it was, but he was just going up and down looking at it. And every so often, a bloodworm, or not a bloodworm, a blackworm would stick its head out and it would grab it. And it was so cool. I thought if I ever get bloodworms, or not bloodworms, but live blackworms, maybe I would do it because they'll live in the sponge, and just to see the fish plucking them would be fun.
Huh.
But on that said, I'm going to give it a 3. I mean, they're affordable too, but and you can air power them or electric power them. I would electric power it because it does a lot more. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. I just think they take too much part of your tank. I mean, maybe if I had put it in a sump, I'd have no problem. It'd just be another step in a sump system. But okay, so did the people start rolling?
They did. I remembered this time.
Number 6.
Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be Beta Aquatics with an 8.
Woo! Betta likes them. Betta says it's a better filter than the bubble. Okay, that was terrible, but 22. 29 points for the Matten filter. Awesome. Whoops, and I should have dropped this and been more prepared. Okay, here we go. This is the interior canister filter. Also, some people might call it a polisher. This particular one is a shark, but I have sharks that I've got from KG that are awesome. I absolutely love them. I've also got the polisher from Whisper, and it is probably my favorite filter I own. It will polish the water insane. It will take anything out of the water and just make it super crystal clear. And I only run it just for polishing water. The sharks I'll leave, in there all the time. But I really like the sharks, and I'm impressed with them. I love how they're all magnetic and everything. They have a much higher price point than what we've been looking at. So we're talking 10 times the price point, but it's pretty cool. And I think I'm going to give the interior canister a 7. And they look stylish, how they're all black and everything too.
Sorry.
Have any opinion on these, Carrie?
Well, I don't. My only experience with an internal canister filter was when I bought my Silver Arowana tank used. It came with 2 older, I don't know what brand. I don't know what they did to these filters. And we fixed them and they worked, but I never hated something so much in my life.
Oh,
and
that's fair.
Hated it. And granted, they were older, they were used. I don't even know what they used. I feel like it was a saltwater tank because they were kind of beat up.
Oh, no.
But I hated them. I just hated them. So my personal experience with that, if it even counts, because this looks really cool and I'm very interested. It looks kind of, fun, but mine was like a 2. I hated it, but It was like I said, it was used, abused. I was making it work. I had 2. They still work, so I felt too guilty to throw them away because they worked, but I hated them.
Gotcha. So a 2.
Yes. So I feel like that was super biased and unfair to this wonderful filter.
Well,
but that's my
right.
experience that I would have to be super talked into to try to give it another shot.
Gotcha. Well, Rico, do you have an opinion on these guys?
I've never used them. I've always been interested. Someday I will. I definitely will use one at some point in the future. I like the idea of it. I like that there's nothing outside of the tank, really. You know, I mean, obviously you've got the air pump and everything else, but I mean, like a hang on back or a canister or sump or all that stuff, you've got so much extra space being used, where this is only a little bit of space in your tank. It's all self-contained. It's all one unit. I'm going to give it a 6, but that's a very, very uninformed opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. How about you, James?
All right, so I'm going to preface this with I don't want to crap on anybody's product or choices here. That being said, they have their place, they have their use, as do most things. I could see them in very particular instances being helpful. The biggest thing I tend to hear about them is for polishing, which you can use these for everyday filtration. But I think one of the biggest pluses I hear all the time is, well, it's great for water polishing. Like Peplin pointed out, this free water bottle right here and my power head with some polyfill cost me a lot less to polish my water than buying a shark for polishing. Again, I'm not trying to crap on anybody's product. I think they're awesome little filters. I could see maybe using one in like one of my 25-gallon cube tanks where I wanted a more maybe high-end look, and I didn't want to throw a sponge filter behind a really, really nice aquascape, and I could integrate it kind of behind some rock work, and it would do everything it needed to do, and then all you had is this one cord coming out instead of
Whoops, we lost it.
Or a big but again, that was Peplin beat me to it in the chat, the mentioning what I do with the water bottles. That just, it makes sense for me. I can, if I need to polish something, shove polyfill in this, throw it on a power head, pull it out, throw it away, and I'm done with it. Or move it to another tank, polish. When I'm done with it, throw it out, or you can rinse the polyfill and reuse it if you want to. And it's just, I think one of those things that for me, price point has led me not to do it, because I knew I could do polishing cheaper. But I could see in some instances, like I said, using it. But I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. Now the shark does have room for biomedia to be put in there, but like the Whisper one has actually a water filter that you would see like on a water filter, or a RO system or something like that. So, but yeah, that's
like
great
a membrane
point.
system.
Yeah, and they also have a thing that you can put just a whole bunch of charcoal, just fill a whole thing of charcoal just to pull meds out. So they have their place.
They do.
Boy, I'm almost thinking that's one of my favorite filters, but no, I don't put it. I just use it rarely though. I use it. It's a spot thing. So right. I'm going to give it a 7. I don't think I have a
sponge in here. I put some charcoal in here. I shove polyfill over it. I'm also pulling meds out of the water while polishing, and I've done it for the cost of this bottle of water and a power head. If you don't have a power head, which is like what, $12 nowadays.
Yep. Okay, well, we've got number 2.
The Fishy Plumber is number 2 with a number 2. Number 2s all around.
The Fishy Plumber knows number 2s better than the average person.
Yes.
22. Ooh. It didn't score so high. It was weird because it was either the bubble was the middle of the ground, everybody was average, and then this one was like a heartbeat up and down, boop, 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 boop. Okay. We've got the underground filter. Okay, this is going to show how old I am. When these things came out real big in the early 80s, I was so excited because I wanted one so bad because it was the coolest filter in the world, but they were too expensive at the time. So that's how old I am. I've used them throughout the decades, really. That sounds old too. I think they work good. They're easy. They're kind of like a sponge filter. Just a different type of maintenance. I just gravel vac and change the tops once in a while if you put some type of carbon at the top. But I'm gonna score The underground filter, a 6. They do break easy when you move them. That always makes me mad because they're kind of brittle plastic. Okay, Carrie, do you have opinions on underground filters?
Yeah, this was my first filter. I still it was
awesome.
on my dad's 30-gallon tank that I had right here my whole life growing up in the living room, and I will always associate the sound of an Undergravel filter with the sound of what a fish store should be. Like, you should hear bubbling. You have to, like, I always remembered fiddling with the air stones for some reason, but I feel like it worked great because we had a community tank in this 30-gallon that we had no idea if they were compatible, and I never remembered doing a water change in my entire childhood on this tank. So it had to have worked fantastically well for a filter because things lived, and that's what got me. I mean, that tank got me into fish keeping. So it's more of like a sentimental value, I guess, but they worked great. I just remember always fiddling with the I don't know what they're called, the towers in the back, and just the big bubbles of like would come out, and that sound, just that's to me what a fish store set should sound like. But I just remember them working great.
I'm scoring it.
Oh,
I'm scoring mine up one more. No, because you convinced me to go one higher because they do.
Yeah, I was gonna say like an 8,
and they're awesome.
I was gonna say an 8. I don't know. They're not my favorite, but I feel like there's certain things out there now that work better. But I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They work good, and like I said, I don't ever remember doing a water change on that tank, so it did its job.
That's awesome.
But I haven't used one, and to be honest, since probably I moved out of my parents' house and got my own fish tanks. But we used them on this tank my entire childhood.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to set one up again because I haven't used one for a long time. Just from what you were saying, it's just made me live back.
Yeah, it's the sound, I guess. Like, it just gets bonus points because of the sound of like going into the store. I mean, that's what they had.
Okay, Rico.
I'm in the same boat. Right around 1972 or something. I don't know, early 70s. I remember having this. I had 2 fish tanks. Both of them, it was like a 10-gallon and a 20-gallon, which was huge at the time, at least around me. I didn't know anybody else had like 55 or anything, and they both used these. They didn't have any of the attachments there. It was just the air stone. There wasn't anything on the top or anything. The ones that I had, I never had any issues with them. That, like Carrie said, they just seemed to work. Back then, I also didn't do water changes hardly ever. I mean, I would top off and stuff. I didn't even know about water changes. And my fish seemed to do okay. I mean, I kept fish for quite a few years when I was a young man. I'm going to go with a 7. And here's the thing. Today, I don't know that I would use one today. So that is the nostalgia factor. I know that they work, but they are. I just feel like there's so many other things that are easier. The sponge filters, just everything that's just so much easier. That does a good job on it too. These aren't super expensive though. They've got a lot of positives, but I still don't know that I would use one today.
Gotcha. Well, James, have you used underground filter?
I have, and I do still own a couple. I can't even say back in my day, so I'll go with back before I was even a twinkle in my daddy's eye. He was using these things, and there's nostalgia to them, and they just kind of worked. They did their thing. They were sufficient for the day and age. I'm going to give it an 8. Part of that not getting a higher ranking is that I run a lot of bare bottom tanks. I do a lot of breeding tanks, and I don't want to throw one of these in a bare bottom tank. So it doesn't get, for usefulness purposes for me, maybe as high of a rating as it quote unquote deserves. But I think they're awesome filters. I do use them sometimes, and I've got actually found a filter plate for one of them in the shed here when we were cleaning it out when we bought the place, and I saved it. And
Cool.
it's still sitting up in the rafters, and I intend to put it to use when I find a tank that it's appropriate for, because it was a very odd shaped tank that was broken, unfortunately, that it was in. So yeah, they're awesome things. They have their purpose, and they've been around for longer than I have. So,
Well, that's super cool. What did the crowd? Oh, number 2 for the crowd.
Number 2 again. That would be Benjamin Peters again with an 8.
Wow. So it came in with a 38, very high rating for the underground filter. Wow.
it's a classic.
Or Undergravel.
Mhm.
It really is. And you know what? I need to speed it up just a little bit because we have about 15 minutes to rip through a whole mess, 5 more of these things. So we're going to speed it up just a hair so
Don't
that way
talk
everybody
so
can get to
much.
bed. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I gotta tell myself. It's been a while since I've talked to everybody.
Oh, that picture's so small. I don't know why it's so small. But the hang off the back filter, when these things came out, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I didn't realize it was a con to make me keep buying cartridges. But now I really enjoy them. I like getting ones that have deep compartments, and I fill it with my own biomaterial, and it's kind of a hang off the back sump for me.
Mhm.
So I like them still today. I'm going to give it, the only thing I don't like is the electric and when they break. So I think I'm going to give it a 7. Okay. James, why don't we go with you next?
All right, super quick. I'm also going to give it a 7. Actually, make that a 6, because a large part of it is the scam of having to buy crap. And if you don't want to have to buy crap regularly, you still have to buy other crap that's going to last longer to put in it / on it / around it. And I don't want to have to plug in 50 filters for 50 aquariums. So, yeah, that's
Right.
me.
You know what? I'm going to change mine to 6. You guys keep getting me to change my opinions. Okay, Rico, we'll go with you next.
I'm going to go with a 7, and I do like them. Obviously, I don't use any of the cartridges that come with them. I have a filing cabinet here that's probably got 20 of them in there. There's so much you can do with them. You can change out the media, put all different kinds of stuff in them. James makes a great point about, if you've got a large fish room, then maybe that's not the right one. I've only got 10 tanks up and running right now. I like them a lot. I'm gonna give them a 7.
I use the cartridges to polish, and when I just start up a fish tank, to clean all the stuff from the gravel that might float around. But then I don't use the cartridges for anything else. Or maybe to pull out meds. Okay, Carrie, it's your turn.
I'm gonna try to say it really quick, but I'm gonna give myself an average score for the hang on the back is like a 7, because this particular style that's on the screen I hate, and I would say a 0. I hate them, but I like the hang on the back, the Tetra Whisper filter one, because they like you said had the deeper thing compartment, and they're really quiet. So I have them on a lot of my tanks, and I can film, and you can't hear anything. So I like that as like a 9. So just even out, I'd say a 7, because I love and hate them. It's on extreme ends.
Gotcha. And I rolled another 2.
The 2 this time would be Lady R with a 6.
With a 6. So that's 14 and 18. A 32. Awesome. Oh, and I should do my math. I'm going to start dropping my photo when the 4th person starts talking, so I can get the next one up. And here we go. The canister filter. The canister. This is the FX6. It's kind of the super one, but I have the FX6 and I absolutely love it on my 200-gallon fish tank. But I had one of the Fluval, whatever, 405s or something. I don't know. They have some weird number like that. And the burst when I was on vacation, and it ruined my carpet in St. Louis. And when I walked into the house, it smelled like dead carp. in my house. It was horrific. I really thought, did somebody bring a dead fish to my house? Like they're going to barbecue it and just left it on the counter or what? And then when I walked in there, it was horrific. So canister filters, I'm kind of afraid of. I love the big giant ones that work great. When they work, they're great, but I'm only going to give it a 6 because there's so many that I hate. Okay, Carrie, do you have any experience with canister filters?
The only experience I have is I have an FX4, I believe, and I like it. I would give that one like an 8. I don't enjoy the process of cleaning it when it's time to get rinsed out. That's kind of gross, but the fact that it goes back together really easy. So that's the only one I've ever used is the FX. I believe it's the 4.
I have an XF4 too for the 75 and absolutely love the FX series.
Mm-hmm.
So you're lucky that you got good stuff.
Mm-hmm. I waited to the Thanksgiving sale a handful of years ago.
Nice. Okay, Rika, what's your opinion?
I'm going to give it a 6. I do have a marine land. I don't have one of the fluvels, but I do have a marine land. I think they take up a lot of extra room. I think that it's a very high price point. They do work great. There's a lot of versatility. You can load that up with all different kinds of stuff in there, whatever your favorites are. I mean, there's a lot of choice in it. So there's definitely, you can't go wrong with it, but for how much they cost and how much room they take up, that's why I brought it down.
Yep. I totally understand that. Okay, James. Oh wait, what? You said
you got it?
I'm going to give them a 7. Only because I'm going to take it back to the good old days of the Magnum 350 and the Magnum HOT canister filters. Shout out if you remember those.
I wish I still had mine.
Just about every other brand. I should give them a 0 because I had to clean 2 canister filters yesterday, and that's not fun. But they serve their purpose. I do think like if I needed an FX6 for the price I'm going to have to go pay for a new FX6, I'm going to build my own sump cheaper and have more water volume and make it do exactly what I want to do, exactly how I want to do it. That being said, you can tend to find them cheap on the secondhand market. They do tend to leak fairly often from the valve or from the flanges if they're not treated properly and cared for and maintained correctly. And it's really easy to get a really big mess off of a canister filter that you wouldn't get from pretty much any of the other filters we've discussed. So
I think out of all the filters that people neglect, that's the one that they neglect the most too.
That's definitely for me. Yes, I clean mine like once
it's with me. Yeah, I should be cleaning it every 4 months, and it's more like every 8. You know, I push it. But number 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be Amanda Baker with a 7.
Amanda, what did she say?
A 7.
Nice. And I forgot to write canister. Okay, so what did James say?
7.
7, yeah.
14.
7
Sounds
and a half, whatever it takes.
34. One of the higher scores. Okay, now here's one that not everybody's got to try. The Sump. The Sump is like the rich man filter, even though you can do it on a dime and make it work really well. I have a Sump, and Nico, he's crinkling my paper. Come on, buddy. Sorry. He like did a circle, but he put his foot underneath the paper and spun it. I don't know what he was doing. Okay, so I'm going to give a Sump. I think they're probably awesome. I'm going to give it a 7. And Carrie, have you ever used a Sump?
No, I have not. I've seen them. They look fantastic. But I
know your answer. I know your answer.
A 5.
I was going to go higher, but I thought the
Oh.
reason you were going to say that you didn't use it was because
I'm lazy.
you're lazy. Because that was going to be my answer. That's my
No,
answer.
honestly, I don't think I have. I'm curious and I would love to try it, but I don't have where I would put one. I just set up a new tank. So I'm lazy and I'd rather have like a fish tank than a sump. But I could see the reason, like I could see why you'd want one. But I would probably honestly, I'd probably give them like a 6.
Awesome.
Honestly.
I'll give you a 6. I need to get mine running. I've got everything. I haven't drilled the tanks and everything. So, okay, Rico.
I'm going to go with a 6 as well. I love the idea of it, but like Carrie, I'm lazy. I know I've seen a lot of people in our community put them together. There's a lot of videos out there about them. They don't look like they're difficult, but it just seems like overkill for what I've got. I feel like they would be better in bigger tanks. I mean, my biggest tank is a 75, and I'm sure you could do a sump on a 75 and make it work fine. But I feel like they're better for bigger tanks. I like the idea of them, but yeah, I'm going to just go with a 6.
And James is a sump master.
I don't know about
he is
that.
like the best sumper I know.
I'm going to give him an 8 because if you need a sump, you just need a sump. There are some instances I don't want to put 3 Fluval FX6s on something that I could throw a sump on. Sometimes you need it. You know, back when I had my 220 reef up, needed a sump. I saw some people mention things like water in the floor if a power goes out or other issues like that. The trick with sumps is making sure that they are built and plumbed properly, or you can have all sorts of disastrous issues. You can flood your floor, you can set your house on fire. The key to a sump is really know what the heck you're doing and exactly how water works. And even if you think you know how water works, you might not in terms of plumbing and gravity and back pressure and all of those weird little nuances that we don't get into in the day-to-day fish keep.
Sounds scary.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially when he says,
I mean,
your house on
but
fire.
it also sounds scary to go, I'm going to take a glass box and throw a bunch of fish in it, and they're going to depend on me to live if you're not familiar with it. So it's just something to learn.
But me being goofy, taking a drill to a tank and plumbing it sounds terrifying because I'm not. That's a Jesse department.
We didn't get a lot of responses this time. 1, 2, 3, 5 would be Whip's World with a 4. Hi, Whip. Good to see you, buddy. With a 4.
And Sump's got a 31. Now we got to go quick. We're on 2 left to find out the best ones. I apologize, guys, for running long. The box filter. The box filter is the first filter I ever knew. My dad raised lots and lots of guppies and cory cats that he sold to different fish stores throughout the 70s. He gave up the business kind of when we adopted him, and he had lots of kidney problems. So he gave it up to spend more time with my sister and I, because my mom was always at the hospital with my brother. But the box filter was the thing is he would give me like a dime for each one I'd clean. So if I cleaned them all, I'd get like $1.50, and it'd be about enough to buy a G.I. Joe, you know? So I've cleaned thousands of these things over the years, at least as a child. They really work. I don't like how they look, but I think they look as good as a sponge filter. People don't really set them up like how my dad did. He did the polyfill, and then he did carbon underneath, and that was it. You know?
Yeah. That's how. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 7. Okay, Carrie, have you ever used a box filter?
Nope, I have not. I honestly, nope, probably not. Just because wonderful cleaning stories you just told me. I will just.
Like, when you pull that polyfill out, it's just like a layer of poop.
Yeah, I've done the polyfill before, and I don't mind it, but I just don't ever put it back in. But I would probably, just like I said before, I don't know, so I'd just give it an even 5, just right in the middle 5.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Rico?
That was my very first one too, and it was, there was always carbon in it. Always. You mentioned that with your dad. I mean, nowadays I never really use it, but back then it was always in there. It was something I was always told you had to have.
Yeah.
So it was the polyfill and the carbon, just like you said. I still think they have a place. I think they work great. James has a great live stream where he made one out of a little.
Yeah.
I don't remember what
He has an
box
amazing
was, a little
DIY.
plastic one. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they're super easy to make. I'm going to give them a 7. I think they're versatile. I think they definitely have a place for smaller tanks. Smaller being 75 and below. 75 is even a little probably high. Probably a 55 and below.
Okay, James, I'll let you have your opinion. I'm going to drop this one and get the next one.
Absolutely. I'm going to give them a 9. I mean, they're right up there with sponge filters. Yeah, and thank you, Rico, for the shout out on that. I've got 2 videos on that. I've got the DIY box filter out of a fish food container, and I've got the 1-year update to see how it was still working after a year. But I do enjoy them. Again, it goes back to, I think the reason I don't have more is price point, maybe. I do plan to have a lot of the breeding tanks have a sponge and a box in them. You can see a lot of breeders that run box filters and or combination box and sponges together. It's simple. It's really hard to screw it up, even for a new person. You don't understand how to put it together, or how the canister snaps in, or how to plumb a sump. This is simple. You plug some air into it, you throw the stuff in there, you throw it in, and then you have to clean it, every so often. It's pretty easy, pretty cheap.
Easier to clean than a sponge too, because you can bring the whole thing out, right? So you're not getting.
Yeah, it definitely can be. Absolutely. Yeah.
Number 5 again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be Pooplin, the birthday boy himself, with an 8. With an 8. You said it.
Oh, wow. I just called him Pooplin on accident. I'm sorry, Pep.
No, you can't say sorry. It's his name now. That's what we call him.
That's what we call him?
We do. That's what we call him. He knows. He knows.
What? A solid 36. Very nice. And I bet you if my dad was on here, he would have given it a 10. Even though I've got Nawazi filter on his. He's got the filter that has the heater built in and everything. I got him the most expensive one I could get. Okay, well, this is the last one, folks. The sand-capped soil tank. No filtration really at all natural. Lucas, Father Fish, both swear by it. I did it for a year. And I'm going to tell you the truth. It's a little harder than it looks. It looks super simple, okay? Because you're not doing anything. The mulm really builds up and you do a lot more vacuuming. So I went back to my sponge filters and running air and sucking mulm out a lot less. I mean, you still get mulm with anything, but this, the tanks, the fish, I didn't lose any fish. The plants went crazy. I may have had it almost 18 months. I did it for a long time, but I was getting tired of the maintenance. It really seemed like I had to do more maintenance to keep my tanks looking decent. Okay. Carrie, have you ever done this?
Yes.
Oh, I got to give it a rating. I'm going to give it a 7.
Yeah, I think I'm with you too. I think I do a 7 too. That's what this tank is, and this one right here is that you can't see. And I feel like they're still going. This one right now just has, it's not even a filter. It's just an air like brick. It's not even a filter. It's just got bubbles on it. But I feel like everything the first, I don't know, like year and a half, everything was really good. Everything plant-wise grew really, really well. It was still a little tannin for a while, but now it's kind of at the point it's been set up for multiple years that I'm kind of like you said, I do water changes and the fish and everything. They're doing great. I have like fry in the guppy tank and stuff, but it's like a weird algae in kind of the stagnant area that I'm always kind of fighting, and it's just the plants are kind of going down. They still look good, but things are kind of on a downward slope. So I feel like it did really well for a while, but now I'm kind of in that stage where you were talking about. It's gotten a little bit more difficult to keep it looking great, if that makes sense.
Totally. So what was your score?
A 7. Whatever you said is what I agreed with. I think it was a 7.
Yep.
Now, is that
Okay,
common?
Rico?
Is that common? What you just talked about as time goes on, they seem to, after a couple of years, are you looking at rebuilding it? Are you rebuilding it every couple of years?
I've just add to it. I don't ever take anything out. I just keep adding different substrates to the layer of lasagna. So that could be the problem. I don't know. But like I said, everything's still green. Everything's doing well. It's just everything has like a small little bit of algae to it. I've got algae that was on the back wall that I've been slowly over the last couple of weeks kind of scraping off gradually, a little bit at the time. I don't know. It's just there's always a stagnant area when I don't have a bunch of filtration on it.
The water, it looks like something you'd see in a lake or a pond,
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to drink that water.
Mm-mm.
Do you also want to look at that water? We like to look at, I think, water that's in a stream that's moving all the time, that's really crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the negatives. You're kind of getting, but fish do great in ponds and lakes. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you, Carrie.
I don't really, I'm not too particular about particulates. I don't care about the murky water so much. I've never done one. I'm going to give it a 5. I feel like this could go very badly wrong more than anything else we've seen. I feel like you could do this one wrong and hurt your fish more than anything we've seen so far. I think you really,
elite,
yeah. So I think that this one opens up far more to possible problems than other styles. So, and that's just an opinion. Again, all these are just opinions. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay, James?
Okay, and this is with nothing but plants and the sand. There's no other filtration going, right?
Soil.
Nothing else.
Yeah. I think it's also called an isnostic. Do they call it isnostic tanks? It's something like that. It's like a.
Never heard that terminology. No, I've done these tanks before. I've done the sand cap tanks. I think I'm going to give it a 6, and here's why. This type of tank is almost the pinnacle of fish keeping, but it's often taught as what the beginners should be doing. The problem is you have to have a very clear and concise understanding of your fish, down to like the precision of, okay, do you know that your fish can, digest 2% of their body weight every 2 to 3 hours, and how much bacterium that's creating every couple of hours it's in getting, run through the nitrogen cycle. Trying to properly balance one of these tanks, which is what it basically all comes down to, is how many fish being fed how often equals the amount of waste that the plants will eat. Most people aren't quite familiar enough to be able to set that up properly. Or like myself, I'm aware of how to do it, but I like to heavily stock my tanks, as Ed, I know you do too. A lot of fish in our tanks, especially with breeding guppies or endlers. Man, I want to throw 4 dozen of those things in there that are breeding versus going, this can handle 10 fish that I feed every other day, and I never have to touch the water. I'd rather change the water once a week and have a whole bunch of fish in that thing and still have plants and all of that stuff. So that's my short synopsis on that.
Well, and I still have 60 tanks like that, but I run air now to them.
Yep.
With the sponge filter. So I'm doubling down, and it works great for me. So
yeah, and that's why I wanted the specificity. I'll give it a 6 because they're awesome setups. I think if you can achieve it and do it properly, that just shows that you're a very in-tune fish keeper. But I am like you. I will run those tanks, but I'm also going to have the sponge in there as well because I like that backup. I like the extra safety zone there to where I can do some things that I might not be able to get away with, like Carrie talked on,
Mm-hmm.
without having any type of redundancy or fail safe.
Yeah. I just assumed they were going to be lower maintenance. I figured sand tank or a dirted tank with a sand cap with no filter. The tank's been running with a filter for a long time. My filter broke. I didn't know it broke. So it's going to be a no filter tank now, you know? And I just figured it's been set up for a while. This one up here, at least, the filter broke, and then we'll go with it. And it'll be so easy. It's so easy. And it's easy, but I just have to do more water changes than I thought just to keep it just the water fresh, because there's no circulation in there. So like, they're fun. It's just, I thought it would be easier. Like, just run yourself. You're just no filter, no maintenance. Like, just it's a 55-gallon with just guppies and shrimp. It'll be so easy, and it's pretty. I get the most compliments in the live stream over that tank. It's more work than I was expecting, in not a bad way, I guess.
Gotcha.
And Coro said, oh gosh, now I don't see it again. Agnostic.
Anoxic.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. The sand bed system. But what it was number 3.
Number 3 would be Linda Worth with a 4.
Oh, she's not a fan of it.
You know, now that we're at the end and we're you're going to total up and see who the winner and stuff. These are all opinions, right? Almost any of these will work depending on what you got going on. Some of these will work for everything that you have going on, right? None of these. Everybody in the chat that said no, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. They do work. You know, it's all opinions. It's
it's very
and they all have been proven workers. I mean, right down to the box. I mean, that's what we learned on the ground filter. Every single one of these things is a proven worker.
Yeah.
I think the one that probably takes the biggest leap of faith is the bubble media, the air bubble drove media. Is probably the biggest
really
leap of
so faith. I would have thought the last one we did.
Yeah.
No, none. Even though we have people like Father Fish and LRB that are obviously very successful with it, and a bunch of other people. We have those people, but still, it just seems like a bigger leap of faith there than anything else.
Well, the only filter to score a 40 was the number 1, was the sponge filter. That was the number 1. And the number 2 was the Undergravel. The gravel. Box filter came in at number 3. The Canister, number 4. The HOB, the hang off the back, had 32 for 5. Sump was number 6. And it drops all down to low 20s after that. So very interesting. So guys, I hope that we tried to talk about all these different filtrations. They all work and they all have their niche.
Yeah.
And don't ever tell somebody that they're stupid for doing it one way, because you do it a different way.
Yeah, that was
always be open-minded. Yeah. That's how we learn.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my point. And Whip said, let me clarify, it doesn't work for me. I thought we were talking personal experiences. For sure. And we love to hear those personal experiences, and we all have different ones, but yeah, that's the whole key, right? Is not judging other people, not being fish police, because you did something one way doesn't mean you have to always do it that way.
And if I left off a filter, leave it in the comments or put it in the stream. I try to go back and read the stream like later tonight. I'll read what everybody said, and I normally laugh at it, let you guys say, because I have such a good time. But it might last longer if you put it in the comments. Just saying, because sometimes things kind of go out of my mind once it's in the stream. And but thank you so much, Carrie, for coming on the show tonight. You were amazing and awesome. Yo, you bet. And you guys check out Carrie and Jesse. They're both super cool. Science Scale. Now, do you guys do a stream every Sunday, or are you guys kind of going every so often?
It's been like 2 Sundays for sure, but school's coming to an end soon. Summer's being here soon, so we'll be more regular. We just have little ones, and the little ones got a heart murmur now, so we've got some things to deal with. So regularly on Sundays, yes, at 4 Central, but we might miss here and there, but we'll always be there. We'll always be back.
Awesome. James and Rico, thank you guys for being here and being awesome. Mods, thank you so much. Everybody who subscribed, thank you for helping me do my things. That helps me keep the crafts going. And just everybody for coming and participating and having fun. Lurkers, we love you guys too. Those lurks count. So, and everybody who's going to be watching the show tomorrow. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.